Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feed the Wolf podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Homer. How do you pronounce your last name?
Britton.
Britton. Okay, I didn't know if it was Brighton or Britton. Homer Britton from Black Wolf CrossFit. And I think he has a very interesting story, which is why I wanted to sit down with him. But also because you kind of just have like this energy about you. I believe like when you come to class, you're always cheerful. You always got to smile. You're always encouraging everyone. But you're one of those people where it's just like, oh, Homer's in class today? Like, hell yeah, kind
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
usually
So,
because the first time I see you guys is like the first time I see people for the day. So I'm excited like a kid at the first day of school when I see people at the gym.
well, there you go. Yeah, so whenever Homer walks in, it's always like a positive energy. You're actually kind of hard to read too, so I'm like, I gotta sit down with this guy and try to see if I can dig deep and find some more about him. So, just go ahead and like give us a little bit of a background. Like, tell us, where are you from? Why are you in Houston, Texas? And kind of just let us know your background a little bit.
So that story is always funny because it's long. I was actually born in Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm a Navy baby.
Okay.
Then moved to Chicago where my parents are originally from. Stayed there about 10 years. Then we moved down to Nashville, Tennessee. Spent like 16 years there, and I started to hate it. 2014 was a really rough year for me. I had one of my fraternity brothers that I was really close with die of cancer. I had two other fraternity brothers actually commit suicide, and I
Oh.
kind of fell into a deep depression. And the only way I saw out of that was moving.
Okay.
And New York was number one. And then I realized my job wasn't going to give me any more money if I left. And Houston was the next city on my list. And the reason being is it actually is it's a very diverse city, but also has a large number of black women that are professionally educated, which, MBAs, college doctor, lawyers. And that's kind of what I was looking for because
Okay.
of my dating scene in Nashville was really bad because I knew everybody. So I was like, Houston, you're number one. So I moved down here thinking I only knew like maybe two people. And then when I got here, I realized that like two of my classmates from high school lived here. One of the guys that I knew, fraternity brothers from Vandy, was here. Then another one, it just came out to me knowing a lot of people when I got here and didn't even plan it that way. I only knew like two people, Russell and my homeboy, with frat brother Matt. That was it.
Okay. Were you in a fraternity then?
Yeah, I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the number one fraternity, of course. Ice cold, ice cold. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So yeah, I mean, Houston is definitely a very diverse city, which is something I've noticed, but also like appreciated because I came from a very small town. Like, literally, we had maybe like 3 black people at our school,
Hmm.
and it was like people drove tractors to high school on the last day, and I was like, what is going on? So
If you don't live in Milwaukee, I don't think there's any black people in Wisconsin.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely weird. So I know you work in IT, but you had mentioned that you had a CrossFit coaching background. So first off, what kind of led you to CrossFit initially, and then how did you kind of get into the coaching world?
Another long story. So again, I went to lived in Tennessee. So I went to Tennessee Tech University, and usually when people see that in CrossFit, their eyes light up. I went to school with Rich Froning.
Okay, yeah.
So
I was gonna
look,
say, wait
and
a
you're like,
minute.
your eyes just lit up. See, that's what usually happens. You're like, what? Your eyes lit up. So CrossFit, I kind of avoided it. But actually, so I knew Rich. Rich was a great guy. But my fraternity brother and Neo, which means a guy underneath me, Elijah Muhammad, known as Easy,
Mm-hmm.
he got involved in CrossFit. And then I would say around 2011, 12, he said, hey, come do a workout with me.
He was in your frat?
Yeah, we're in the
Oh,
same
wow.
fraternity, same chapter. He was in my wedding. Like, we're really close friends. Like,
Okay.
yeah, we're really close friends. Talk to him just about every other week. Talk to his wife more than I talk to him because he's always traveling and busy. But got me to do it as kind of a dare, and I think it was kind of a favor or like I want to haze you back type of thing. And I did it in his garage. So I used to do CrossFit in his garage first and got hooked. He was then going to coach at a gym, CrossFit Hermitage, but instead he actually ended up going to Alabama and opened up a gym in Alabama. He had a great deal, went
Okay.
down there, and that's how I got started with like a classroom was CrossFit Hermitage. Shout out to Brandy and Tom. They got me started really getting into it further. He kind of got me, kicked it off, but they got me and kind of got me going back into it and really caring about the sport and seeing the fundamentals and everything in my form, that's where it all started to click.
Okay. And how old were you at this time?
26,
Okay.
25, 26, something like that. Yeah, 25, 26.
All right. And then so then what led you kind of to become a coach, or like how long did it take for you to get
Brandy,
there?
Brandy Forbes, like watching her, she was just very detailed. I'm a project manager, or well, was a project manager, and some of the similarities in coaching and watching Brandy kind of came together. But like her passion, I've always had a passion for sports. I played high school basketball, ran cross country, intramurals in college. Like my parents were like, "You're not going to NBA, so you can't go to junior college or go play at a small school."
Mhm.
So it was just intramurals for me. And then coaching, I got involved coaching with summer basketball camps, and I realized that coaching the little kids and stuff, and I really got a passion for that. And so I've always had it. But then it was something that I really enjoyed, which was CrossFit, and I just watching Brandy and what she did, and the joy she brought into it, and then the clicking, which I guess we'll talk about a little later. But really watching her as a person, as a coach, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it too. And it was just more because we have similar personalities. Because she's kind of blunt for us, and I'm the same way. But it was great, and I saw people be receptive of it. Some people didn't like it, but majority did, and it was they didn't like it. They didn't like being pushed, and they were just okay with mediocrity, and that's not me neither.
Yeah. Yeah. How long did you coach then for? And that
Um,
was your
so,
gym that you started at,
so
or?
no, I had the longest internship process ever. I think it's like 10 months. I
Ooh,
had a lot go on in 2014, which was my
that was
internship year.
okay.
Yeah, and so I kind of took breaks, and then I made a decision to move. And so officially, my first gym that I was a full-time coach was CrossFit Willow Bend. It was actually in Bel Air. That's where I started here in Houston. So that was my
Okay.
first official gym, and that was 2015. So I got I did a 2 month internship there because I already did 10 months, had my level one and all that. And then when I went to CrossFit Willow Bend, found a gym, which was crazy how I found the gym. I saw a woman. I always look at people's shoes, and I'm in. We have the nanos. Metcons weren't out yet, but nanos. When you see those, you do CrossFit. And so back then, at least, and I saw somebody in the grocery store, and I was like, "Hey, where do you do CrossFit at?" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Your shoes." She's like, "Oh," and this is in the middle of a parking lot. So, of course, it was like, "Oh my God, he's trying to steal my car." I'm like, "No, I just want to know where you work out at." And, we ended up becoming real good friends. That's Jennifer. She was actually my first intern at CrossFit Willow Bend.
Okay. And so you said, 2014 was obviously like a really tough year for you while you were also doing this internship. Do you feel like CrossFit was something that kind of helped you through your depression?
Oh, CrossFit was my savior.
Yeah.
I stopped smoking, drinking, those things I didn't really care about. I cared about lifting weights. I was kind of got obsessed with it a little bit because it allowed me to relieve. I was doing 2 a days.
Mhm.
It was my stress reliever. It really saved my life because I actually kind of had that deep path and kind of was going through depression, thought about suicide because
Mhm.
I've been dealing with death for so long, and this really got to me to see one of my friends, young, vibrant. He was fighting cancer. He's been fighting for like 3 years, and then finally he succumbed to it. I just couldn't take it anymore, and so it was rough for me. But CrossFit and the group and that community, really, Tom and Brandy were great, and that was really why I even enjoyed CrossFit even more because of those two people.
Yeah, I think that's what it is for a lot of people. Like whether they realize it or not, they're not just here like for the workout. They're mostly here for the community, for that 1 hour of the day that they get to themselves where they don't have to think, where they can kind of like have that mental
Right.
escape.
Yeah.
Like I think that's again whether people were like realize it or not or whether
Yeah.
they're aware of it, it's obviously way more than that. So coaching, you coached for how long then?
So since 2015 officially, then, so 2004 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years. You say 4.5 if you count my long internship, but yeah.
Were you like when you were either coaching or kind of just getting into CrossFit? I know you had a very athletic background. Were you ever competitive in CrossFit
I
itself?
tried. I tried, but I was doing the 2 a days and stuff, gearing up because it was 2012, 2013 was my competitive year, and me trying to get in shape and doing certain things. The 2 a days, doing a ollie lifting and doing programming, doing little local competitions. I think he still has it. Rich has a competition at his farm or in Cookville every year. And one year it was a squat clean, hang squat clean, and it was kind of like a ladder, and it went up. The highest weight was 300, and I got to 300, never have gotten 300 before. I pull it, I get underneath it, I scream all the way up, and as I walk off, Rich is walking past, and I'm like, yo, beat that.
Oh man.
And everybody, like the people behind her were like, oh my God, he just said that. We both laughed and kept walking because we knew each other, so it was just me being silly. But
Yeah.
I tried to be competitive, but I realized at time, even then, I wasn't putting enough time in. Like I couldn't put 4 hours. I was still working 60 hours a week then. And so me trying to balance out work, that's what helped with the depression too. It was like, okay, here's my spot for 2 hours where I don't have to, hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon where I had nothing else to worry about.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the sacrifice it takes to be like truly competitive in the sport either. Like you got to put in a lot of
It's
time.
a full-time job. It's a full-time job. You have to put six to 7 hours, and you're doing that 5 to 6 days a week. What bills can you pay with that? Because, you know, CrossFit, you don't really get paid unless you work at a gym.
Right.
And even then, living in Nashville, I don't think that would have been feasible.
Well, I mean, I saw you compete this past weekend, and I could see it in your eye. Like, you
Yeah,
got the competitive edge a little bit.
I'm competitive as hell. But I'm competitive as hell. And it's actually funny that it came back, and I try to run from it by coaching, because that's what I've been doing. I've been coaching so much to focus on everybody else. But now the opportunity to focus on me, and then when I did the competition with Kirby, it lit back in, and I was like, yeah, I still have it. At 32 years old, I still have it. And so now I'm like, okay, I think I know what I can do. This intermediate, I can stay in that zone, and I can push there and try to get better.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually exactly what Ben and I have talked about before. Like, he asked me on one of the podcasts or before one of them, like, do you think that we picked coaching because it's easier to point out others' flaws or, like, look at that instead of looking inward and kind of, like, working on yourself? Like, it's so much easier to spend time, like, helping everyone else, like, tell them what to do, help them achieve their dreams, than to, like, look inward.
Yeah.
So for you, like, you've done the coaching, now you've kind of shifted back to the athlete. First off, what do you think kind of makes a good coach? And then, like, tell us about that shift. Like, is it easier to be the athlete, be the coach?
It depends on what gym and what you're trying to do on that sense of, like, being a better athlete or being a coach. But, like, what I look for when in coaching or having a good coach is communication, having good eyes, the energy and personality. I don't think you can have a dead personality and be a good coach. Like, you have to be a people person almost. You have to be someone that is willing to change the way you communicate to reach the athletes, because that was something I had to learn, because I kind of was like, this is the way to go. And, you know, I dealt with, and I'm sorry, a lot of soccer moms, and they don't like being screamed at. And so it's just like, hey, you came in here at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're complaining. That's not going to work. So, you know, making those adjustments and knowing how to communicate, which actually has helped me. Coaching CrossFit has helped me with my career in the IT world and making those adjustments as I move up the corporate ladder. Now with coaching, which one is easier? Being an athlete's easier. But being a competitive athlete is harder. So for me, knowing that I was like, my back squat was like 465, and it's been that for the last 2 years because I've been focusing on everybody else, and now I'm in here and I'm like, nah, I'm supposed to be hitting 515. I'm 32 years old. That's not happening, you know, unless I put it in the time like a regular athlete. So now it's like, for me, it's finding the balance of enjoying CrossFit and touching that competitive edge. And, you know, Black Wolf has allowed me to realize that I don't have to have super specialized training to be in shape, because literally what happened last weekend, I don't have competitive programming. I have general fitness, general CrossFit training, and I'm in good shape. I can be in better shape, but that's just due to me being injured. So, you know, dealing with that. So, yeah.
I mean, those are kind of the next things I wanted to touch on, too. Like, first off, why Black Wolf? Because it sounds like you've been able to experience a lot of other gyms, and that you've had, it sounds like, great experiences there. So why did you kind of pick Black Wolf, or why'd you?
The name is by itself, Black Wolf. You know. So this is going to sound silly, but for me, I was looking for diversity. Like, I was looking for a town in the gym, and as you know, not a lot of Black people do CrossFit. Let's just get that over. It's not.
That's true.
They do it, but it's not a lot of numbers. So that's what I was looking for: a diversity in the gym. I was looking for a community feeling, because I got kicked out of the last gym. Not me, but they just killed CrossFit, and so I was looking for something close to the house, cheaper. Because for some reason CrossFit has lost their mind, and these $250 memberships, just I don't see. And for me being a coach, I don't need $250 membership or what they're trying to give you for $250 a month. But coming here, getting the vibe from Ben and Joel, that kind of brought me in. The people were friendly-ish, and then like the second time and the third time they were really friendly, and so I was like, okay, hey, everything was good. But Black Wolf was one close to the house, great people, great programming. I wasn't even like not sore, but I could move. That was one of the issues that I had. I was coaching so much, or coaching where I was only working out 2 to 3 times a week, and then when I came in, I was trying to do 80% or 70%. When you're not training up that whole week, you shouldn't jump to that. But even a coach, I know that. But again, that trying to be an athlete, trying to hold on to something, was putting me in positions where I was end up being sore, hurting myself instead of getting better and improving. I hit a plateau for like the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Until I came here.
So you've mentioned a lot about diversity. So like let's just tackle that. Like, obviously I can't really relate as much to that, but like what have you experienced because you've played sports your whole life, like within sports and then within CrossFit, like you've mentioned, like there's not that many Black people that do CrossFit. So like have you experienced any, discrimination within sports or CrossFit? Or
I mean, sports, of course, I lived in Tennessee, so dealing with that when you play baseball and you go out to the country towns and stuff like that stuff. But CrossFit itself, I would say I deal with more microaggression than I do like racism, because most people are just not gonna be like, oh, I hate you, or like that, but they usually don't speak. They don't have that welcoming CrossFit vibe, and you usually know it's because they do it to somebody else. So it's like, okay, why didn't I get that when I walked in?
Yeah. But
here in Houston, I really haven't had that at all. Most of the times complaint I have is about music, because as like a coach, I listen to music that curse. It's not edited, but well, these days it's edited music that has cursing in it, and so usually people will get mad about the music and cursing. But I'm like, you curse at your kids, so what does it matter? But no real racism in CrossFit life, yes, but that that's just a part of life. Like you deal with it every day in some type of form, which is that microaggression.
Okay.
And this week, I was in line to get food at the airport, and this pilot decides to get in front of me. And he's like, I call him out and say, hey, I'm in line. He's like, oh, you were in line? Yeah, you just walked right in front of me. He was like, oh, I thought you were talking to with those other ladies. They're 2 old white ladies. We don't look like we're together. So why do you? And he just assumed, he was like, oh, well, it's only a minute. And I'm like, well, you can get a minute behind me. I'm in line. I was here. Don't try to jump the line. And then the funny part is his plane was delayed. So why are you rushing? And I'm trying to get to my plane. So, those microaggressions, not being seen, not being heard type of things, those are things that I deal with and still continue to deal with daily.
Yeah. I feel like for you, though, like one thing I've really noticed about you and like respected about you is that you always seem to speak your mind. Like you don't hesitate to speak up, which is something that I'm really working on. Like, like sometimes I have to deal with things just as a woman, like not anything compared to I'm sure what you do, but like, and I feel like I'm always taught to like keep my mouth shut. And I feel like that's something I've really like respected about you and picked up on from you, that like, well, Homer, like even you'll call out Ben sometimes, like, Ben, what you talking about? And I'm like, wow, okay. Like, have you always been that way?
Yeah, my wife doesn't like that all the time, though. But yeah, I've always been that. I'm outspoken. I always a people person or people watcher as well. So I see that, and then also me being a coach, like in the gym, I see no reason not to call out the owner for not giving 100% or vice versa, because I want him to hold him to the same standard he holds us. And when we work out together, it's the same thing, and he gets on me and I get on him, and it's perfect. And we know it's not because we're trying to one up each other, it's because we're trying to make each other better. And I think when people realize that, they don't have any problem. But if it's somebody that doesn't know me, they're probably like, oh, this guy, blah blah blah. But it's like, well, I'm going to express myself so you'll, one, know not to try that again, and two, know where I'm coming from. And so,
no, yeah.
And I think you should do the same thing. It's just something new, and it'll be weird, but and it's probably shock some people. Like, wait, did you say something back to me?
Yeah. It's uncomfortable for people, but I think ultimately they eventually appreciate it.
You caught me in my milder days, so yeah. I used to be really bad, so I've gotten better.
So you've obviously suffered. I know when I first met you, you always were like, yeah, I got a knee issue. So tell us a little bit about that.
So my latest issue, it all stems from 16 years ago. Not 16. Is it 16 years ago? Yeah, 16 years ago. I know, right? I dated myself, right? But I tore my meniscus and inverted it in high school, playing basketball, in practice. Talking about pissed. In practice, not a game, practice. But I did that then at 16, Went back at 21 and realized that they had removed my meniscus, like part of it, and just cleaned it up, and not like, they didn't replace it, they didn't do anything. So I have been going on it forever, and then again cleaned it out. 32, what ended up happening is actually, I think last year I tried to relive my glory days, and I played in a basketball league, and I think I tore my meniscus in two places, so my lateral and medial meniscus. And then I had some cartilage damage. I had some bone spurs and
Damn.
inflammation. Yeah, my knee's trash. It's actually like almost 40% on bone on the left side, and then the right is 60. Okay. So I have like old man knees. I have like my left knee is like the knee of a 55-year-old.
Was it like really hard for you to come to terms with that injury?
Yeah, it was, because like I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to lift anymore. Which is not, I can still lift, but I can't do a lot of the jumping and running around that I used to do. So like my wife runs, is in a running group. I can't join her because I can probably run 2 miles, and that's only 1 or twice a month. I can't do it every day or every other day like her running group. So like I just thought it was going to limit my ability to do things, and so I kind of ran from it. So this is a year. Like I literally knew something was wrong with my knee, but I was like, I can deal with the pain. I can lift. I'm strong. I'll ice it and keep going. Which, if this happens to you, don't do that. But it took time to come to grips for it, and I was like, you know what? It actually started hurting really, really bad, and I wasn't able to increase on my lifts anymore. And I was like, okay, there's something really wrong. Let me go to the doctor and find out what's wrong.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to come to terms with that and like know when to continue pushing. Like, oh, I'm just being a baby. Like, it hurts. It's fine. And then to know like when to actually take care of yourself. And I think too, like, especially if you're competitive, it's hard to, I feel like sometimes we lose our identity in that. Like, I know when I was kind of coming terms with the fact that like I had just had like tendonitis in my elbow, but I was like, it made me think, shit, what if I'm like truly injured and I can't do CrossFit anymore? And then like you start spinning the wheel in your head and you're like, who am I without CrossFit? Like, who am I? And then you like go down that rabbit hole.
Right. Yeah. And it was just so much, because like it kind of goes to like me quit coaching for a bit. Like I haven't coached him since February, and it was really like, okay, Homer, maybe you're hurt, but maybe it's just because you're not working out enough, and that's why when you do work out, your knee. I was trying to find excuses, because like my knee was like swelling up all the time, like the size of a baseball, and softball really, and I found an excuse or a way around it, and it was just like, okay. One night it started hurting in my sleep. That's when I was done. I was like, I used to wake up out of my sleep, like not crying, but close to it, because I would move in my sleep and it would catch or pop. Oh, worst feeling in the world. So I was like, yeah, I'm done. Yeah. And so I went to the doctor. Shout out to insurance. I got it right before the end of the year and got an MRI, and that's when I got the news that I had a torn lateral and medial meniscus.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, what advice then would you give to someone who maybe
go to the doctor?
Yeah, if they're dealing with an injury.
Man, go to the doctor. Put your ego aside. Find out what's wrong before you make it worse. Because who's to say that I didn't make it worse? But I mean, I know my knee is trash, and I've had three knee surgeries. So there's no really way of making it better with what I have, unless I hit like the lottery and I can go get some like stem cells and the injections and things like that. But my insurance doesn't cover that. So just take the time to, one, listen to your body, listen to your wife or your spouse.
Women are always right.
Yeah, your spouse or whoever that may be, and then listen to your body for real. Like it's really serious, because I mean, you only have one body, really. I mean, I understand that there are going to be, I can have a knee replacement and things like that, but what is that going to, limit me in 10, 15 years? So
yeah, I mean, usually it almost always, I'm just started reading this book called Ego is the Enemy, and it really seriously always comes down to your ego. Like, what are you proving when you just like push through your pain in the workout? Like, there's a difference between like actual physical pain, like, hey, I might be injured, than like, oh, this is an uncomfortable like lactic acid buildup.
Yeah. Got in trouble for that this weekend.
I know. I saw you after the clean. I was like, oh, he hurt himself.
Yeah, that definitely, my knee wasn't stable, and I have to get used to that too. So yeah, definitely got in trouble this weekend for that. The double unders when I went 40 unbroken, and you can see my face grimacing. My wife was like, "Stop," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll stop," because it was hurting. Like, I'll get out. And like literally, it swelled up. My knee and my quad, my lower quad, were actually swollen up until Tuesday.
I mean, it's hard to put the ego aside sometimes,
Yeah.
like especially if you're a competitive person.
Especially me. I have no problem saying it, especially me, and I'm working on it. And it's a process, and I think people need to realize that you're not going to fix it in like 2 months. You're not going to fix it in 3 months.
No.
It may take you a year or 2 years, but as long as you're on that journey of progressing and getting better, ego, sports, anything, that's how you make progress, and that's how people see that.
Yeah.
People see the change. People may not recognize it when you want them to, but they do see it. And then when you get that recognition for those things, you'll be surprised. And actually, it may warm your heart or just make you feel better because now you're 100%. Because like right where I know now is like I'm done competing until about September.
Okay.
I will start lifting again next week, but I won't be going back to heavy lifting until the end of July. Like I've come with up that in my head now. I'm going to stick that out. I'm going to try to do that and see what happens.
Good. What else are you kind of working on as far as like what are your goals right now? What do you work on as far as like self-growth? Because I know I've seen you post on your Instagram some stuff about like poems you carry around. Like I saw that today, and I know like
that's I learned that poem in one night, but that's a whole other story too. But
well, and I saw you commented too, like on my post on relationships, like things you're working on in your marriage. So
so I mean, marriage is new. I've been married 7 months.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got married in November. Maybe messing up on that one. November, on the months that is. But, yeah, we got married in November and making some adjustments there. Like reality and expectations and reality, those things kind of have to level out. But, like, being a better husband, I think that's something, again, you don't start off a better husband. You have to work for it and
well,
make
no one
adjustments.
teaches you how, really. Like
Nobody. But that was one thing I would say, too. Like, make sure you have friends around you that you can talk to about everything. It's a group, I guess, and I'll say this is going to sound silly, but black men really don't talk about things. But I have a good group of friends that I can discuss things with. Some that are married, some that are not, and it's kind of we pass advice around, and you fit your situation. Everything doesn't fit into the same circle, but talking to one another and realizing that, hey, you kind of went through the same thing I went through. If you have those conversations, you realize that. And in the black community, men don't do that. Like, we don't do therapy, but I go to therapy, and so I promote it and tell people about therapy and say how well it's worked for me and how it's working for my marriage. And it's adjustments. Marriage isn't easy. It's hard work, but if it's with the right person, as you're going to be finding out, you make it work. And a lot of people are millennials and stuff. We just give up so quick in everything in life, and instead of working hard for it. So what I'm working personally is getting 100% on my knee in the gym, or maybe probably figure out how to get some damn ring muscle ups. I still can't do those. And I think it's because of my weight, but that's another story there itself. But I've been getting that down. But due to the knee surgery, that went up. And so, it's balancing all these things right now. And really with work, I just got promoted. And so now I'm going to be focused on a new job, traveling more than I did before, but still working from home. So I'm trying to figure out my little priority list myself actually this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you said too about, black men don't talk about things, but even just men in general, like it's almost shame, like you're shamed for talking about your feelings, or like you're weak if you do that, or if you go to therapy. And like I think it's important that everyone learns that like it's okay. Like they don't give you a class of like, here's how you talk about your feelings, here's how you like actually deal with life. And then you get into these like situations where you have to do that and you don't know how, and then you're in these arguments where you're reacting and like your ego gets in the way, and you're like, what the hell?
That's a story of my life right there. So
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think you're a really interesting person. I really thank you for sitting down with me and kind of sharing a little bit of your story with everyone. I think anyone who listens to this will have some sort of takeaway.
Thank you.
But if anyone wants to know a little bit more about you or connect with you, how would you suggest they do that?
Come try out Black Wolf. Monday, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, maybe Saturday. I'm on Instagram, but I really don't, I don't have like the videos up and stuff. I don't really promote too much like I used to, but @Britton_VI on Instagram.
Okay.
Or talk to Miranda and ask her
give him a follow.
Just give me a follow, reach out. Again, just live life. Like my saying is attack life, and I live that every day. And so, just have a good day, continue to push, grow. Everything's not going to go the way you want it to every day, but take it in stride. That's what I'm trying to do now. And, men, don't be afraid to be men. Just be respectful. That's kind of where my thoughts are.
Hell yeah. I think we should totally end it on that. That's a great thing. So thanks again, Homer, for sitting down with me.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Miranda.
Everyone else have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.